And we're live, Mayor Jimson.
Thank you. Welcome everybody and good evening. I am going to call the special meeting of council to order for January 31st, 2022. You have before you a copy of tonight's agenda. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Dufert, seconded by Councillor Chambers. Any questions to the motion? None being noted, all in favor? Yeah, thank you. Motion carries. Item number 3 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest tonight? None being noted, we'll move on to item number 4. And I'm going to ask SAO Smith to give us a quick update. As the information report to council came out later, I'll ask Glenn or SAO Smith to do a quick update on what's involved.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I apologize for the lateness in getting the information out. Did have a late request that all came together pretty quickly at the end of last week. And some of that information was collected today to help support the request. But in summary of the report that's in front of you, basically we've been approached by Kelvin Redvers, who represents Ice Road Productions. And he's requesting $25,000 in financial support from the town of Hay River to support a full-length film production that he's involved with. And so Mr. Redvers is well known by those from Hay River. He grew up here, was born and raised, graduated, and I think even during his high school days was starting into the area of film production. He's won several awards for small films that he's produced over the years after he graduated from post-secondary school, where he majored in film production. So they have a full-length film that they are looking to get to production. I think they have a significant budget associated with it and are ready to start rolling on it. Feature film at this point is titled Cold Road, and it's inspired, as Mr. Redvers says, by the NWT's remote highways, and it'll be a storyline that's really based on something along on the road systems. So they have been able to secure quite a bit of major funding through Telefilm, Canadian Media Fund, Crave Television, and in Alberta through Wood Buffalo Municipality and the Alberta government. However, they've identified that there are some challenges with using the Alberta highway systems. One of them being more traffic in the area. So between logistical challenges and seemed an expressed interest to actually capture the film and its storyline properly in the Northwest Territories. So, however, with that comes some complications with Alberta funding. So moving it across the border means a loss of some of that. Our understanding is he's had some conversations, or they've had conversations with the Department of ITI about some funding, but hopes to fill the shortfall through the contribution from the town. We asked what questions, or in conversations, we asked the projected economic benefit for the town. He's indicated that it would be over a 2-week period this March, so it's coming up very quickly. And estimated spend in somewhere up to $80,000 with a 20-person crew staying in town and spending at local businesses. Also indicated that they would likely need some support, some human resource support while in town. So the ability to attract some or use some local workers. And I had a conversation with Mr. Redvers today about the potential. We have a little bit of a film industry, or those that are involved with film production in town, and he's already been in conversation with them. So the opportunity to support them or have them involved seems to be on the table. So it's a request that, to fund, provide financial support for a private business venture. The town doesn't explicitly budget that way. Some municipalities do have funds and grants where they will allocate funds, but we do not budget for that. However, we do have in our tourism and economic development budget We do operate with funds for marketing and promotion to support tourism and visitation into the community. Some of these funds we apply for additional third-party funding, but we do have some that are dedicated through internal tax-based funding. So that includes usually what we'll do, we have a tourism plan that outlines some of our marketing activities and such. But we do purchase photos and video licensing and advertise. I should mention that through the filming, we did ask the question on if there would be an ability to access any of the footage for our own promotional uses, such as, we run online videos and videos at our visitor information center or trade shows that kind of depict some of the attractions of the town. And he has indicated that there should be a potential to access some film that would not be in the feature film, but what they call a B-roll. Also indicates that while the production is supposed to be shot between Hay River and Fort Resolution on the highways there, it's not within the community. There's hopes of capturing footage along the lines of our habitat and our northern lights, wildlife, things like that might be attractive to tourists and increase visitation. Certainly the film itself will make reference to being filmed in the town of Hay River area. So just going back to the tourism and economic budget, we also have the vacancy in our tourism and economic development position right now. So we do have we do expect that budget to overall be reduced. So if it's just a thought or an option that council could consider if they do want to know how we would fund this, it could be used through some space in our tourism and economic development for 2022. And that ties into the salaries and training associated with that position, our advertising budget, and a little bit of building maintenance dollars we're saving right now through some of the winterization activities. So we haven't submitted a recommendation with this. It's really kind of unique. We wanted to get it in front of council for discussion and see where you'd like to go with it.
Thank you. Councilor Bouchard, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always difficult. I mean, I think the idea is very, very interesting to do that promotion side of it. We typically don't budget that type of money to be handed out to third parties. I guess we're not really in that business of handing out third party or tax money to third parties. Was there any discussion on any kind of in-kind usage of certain facilities or anything that we could provide as a support mechanism? I'm not sure how I feel about just a straight cash donation.
SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. So the question was raised. There was a need for a little bit of storage for some of their equipment. They have to be able to, I guess, through where they rent from, they have to indicate that it's in a secured location. So there's a little bit of in-kind that could be offered through perhaps storage. We'd have to look at that a little bit further, but perhaps at, say, our recreation center or one of our other buildings. There was a little bit of potential depending on where they filmed, if they needed road clearing or things like that. If it was in town, say on the water treatment plant road or Lagoon Road, there might be a little bit of maintenance support we could provide. But given that they are trying to focus the footage in that highway area between Hay River and Fort Resolution, I don't see much opportunity there.
Councillor Dowie, did you want to speak or do you want to wait? Because I know that you had the initial contact with Mr. Redhurst.
Yeah, I could speak, sure, Your Worship. Yeah, as Glenn said, everything happened pretty quickly. I had a brief conversation with Calvin. We got together with Your Worship, and the SAO, and just had a brief conversation, kind of raising some of those questions that we thought we'd want to get the answers to before we brought it in front of council. Personally, I'm okay with it. Like I think if we have access to the dollars in-house and we can find a way to do it, I think this is a pretty unique opportunity. It comes along, once in a lifetime, and it's not something that I would expect that we would be up against, on a regular basis. And I think that just with the current climate, the way things are, a good news story where we've got a local guy coming home and making a feature film on our doorstep. I like it. I think that it's worthwhile, but I'm certainly open to hearing the rest of council's thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, as Councillor Dewey was stating, we did have a quick meeting with Mr. Redvers in regards to what would be happening. He estimated about $100,000 spend in our community, so there's a big plus for me. I think it's really unique. We're so used to, those of us who have lived here and drive those highways all the time, we don't see the beauty or the remoteness, I guess, that you can drive for hours and not pass anybody, and that how many of us haven't stopped and had to get out and watch the Northern Lights, right? Because we don't have all that when you're away, when you're in between doing a 2-hour drive and there's no lights to mess that view up. It's pretty unique. So I think the concept was something that really spoke to me, that maybe there's an opportunity there that, people would want to do that. So getting something like that out there, because it is so unique, I think is only a plus for the NWT and the community as well. So just a couple little things that jumped to mind there. But Councillor Willows, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I guess I don't deny the uniqueness of it, and I'm a little, I have a couple concerns. One is I don't ever really like finding out these things when you've got to make a decision right off the cuff, and we don't seem to have a lot or all of the answers. I'm hearing a lot of shoulds, maybes, would-bes, kind ofs, and nothing sort of locked down about whether we will or won't be able to get some access to footage. My other concern is, as chair of the finance committee, we have an approved budget. There's no money in the budget for it. And I'm not exactly sure how this would be considered a mandate of the town of Hay River to support something like this. Seems to me that it's more, in the auspices of the GNWT under ITI. That said, I'm open to hearing what the rest of council has to say, but I definitely have some concerns. And my final concern, and maybe the bigger concern, is what do we do when something else like this comes down the road? I don't know. Clearly there's no such thing as setting a precedent. We vote on these things one at a time, but this is kind of unique and a little bit different. So I guess I'm interested to hear what other folks have to say.
Absolutely. Councillor Dufert, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. My thoughts are along the lines of Brian, in that, it's kind of a shock, and it's a large amount of money and our budget and everything else. But the way I look at something like this, because it's tied into what our Visitor Information Center does, which is to promote Hay River and, try to bring in tourism, et cetera, et cetera. And since we've got a vacancy there for the last few months and no one is doing that, in my mind, this is kind of an offset where, because we haven't been actively promoting tourism from the VIC, well, maybe this is something instead. And as SAO Smith said, we do probably have the excess funds from not paying a salary. So in my mind, I look at it as maybe just replacing just a one-off for the few months that we don't have someone running the VIC, to doing this instead, and yeah, we might be setting a precedent, but we look at it one-on-one, and that's how I look at it. If our VIC was up and running and we were paying a salary there, then I'd probably say no, we're not in that business, but we are in the business of trying to promote Hay River. So to me, 25,000 seems like a nice trade-off for not doing anything else. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dufert. Councillor Boucher, go ahead.
I just had a couple other questions that come to mind. Is just so as far as, do we know where the film will get exposure to? And does the town, by a sponsorship of this money, get its name and logo on the film itself? Is there like, so how are we? Yeah, what is our spin-off from it, I guess?
Yeah, there would definitely be our name and lights on where it was filmed. That was something that was very clear. Crave has picked it up, Telefilm. So there's lots of, I think there's a real opportunity for some exposure here. I think the timing as well, guys, because they're planning on being here when we're doing the Polar Pond, which of course the Save Pond Hockey is happening at the same time. And I think there's an opportunity to see that what really Hay River has to offer, that we've got, look what we've got going on here. And I'm kind of in the same mindset as Keith with the good news story. Like, it's been a long 2 years for people. And this is something that I think could really bring some exposure and maybe more productions up in the north. It is a unique place to do any of this. And when you look at all the filming that's done in Vancouver, because it's so much cheaper, there's tax concessions there. He has managed to get some funding through, I believe, the GNWT. Yeah, there was some real, I think what happened, or his explanation to us and how this came to be, was they were going to do it in Northern Alberta because there was tax concessions, because there was a lot of support there. But when they actually got there and saw how busy it would be and how many times they would be interrupted in filming, the next option was to go somewhere in Alberta and say, okay, you know, here's a road, and he just absolutely can't see that. His vision is these northern roads that he grew up on, going up and down, right, with the old telephone poles or the old electricity poles on the side. We all know what he's talking about. But yeah, so he really is, no, I'm not doing it somewhere else, which would be a simple solution, right? But he really has this vision for what he wants to see this look like. So maybe that answers, did that answer your question, Councillor Bouchard?
Yeah.
Any further questions, concerns, comments? Councillor McGill, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity as far as I can tell. Having worked with Ice Pilots and Yellowknife for 5 years, the spin-offs are not necessarily evident at the beginning of the process, but are definitely there in the long haul. So having it being picked up by Crave and a number of other service providers is just awesome. I mean, it's better than just one channel, which Ice Pilots was on. History. So yeah, I think this is an exciting opportunity. And, you know, if we've got funds that are just sitting there dead right now, then why not invest in this? I do agree that this may be setting a precedent to some degree in the minds of people, but I guess each one is voted on individually. So we'll see as we move forward, and it can deal with the fallout. But I think the positives be far outweigh the negative comments.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we really didn't touch on big would be people being used for extras in the film or whatever. There was another something that Mr. Redvers had touched on. Thank you. Councillor Willows, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. So is there any way to confirm or sort of hammer down some of the details in order to say, you know, that we will get some coverage in this film about Hay River itself? And I mean, we do have a couple of little ice roads right around here. I'm not exactly sure what this film looks like, but it would be nice to be able to hammer down some of those details so that we're getting, you know, value for our investment.
SAO Smith can speak to it, but what I heard from Calvin was that we would definitely be where it was filmed. We'd get credits in the actual film itself. It is a fiction. It's a fictional story. It's not a documentary, but he does have CBC documentary under his belt. He's got a lot of, the man has really made Hay River proud, I would say. So And the other one was about the film having access to the film to do some of our tourism stuff. So maybe Glenn can speak more to that.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think that's probably the conditions that we can ask for. They seem pretty close, they're pretty confident that, you know, at the end of the film, it's going to say filmed in Hay River, like all films do. Take that for what it's worth. And the access to the B-roll film, again, things that move are the B-roll footage for our own use in tourism and promotional material seemed like a yes. So I would say those are the two things that we could probably put into, or that we could put into the contract terms. I mean, I think some of these things with films is it's an uncertainty of what's actually going to happen until it's picked up and gets on the TV and on the broadcast channels. Is it going to win awards? Is it going, you never know how far this might go and get picked up in the future, but it's an investment that comes with uncertainties. But I think we can guarantee they put it into our contract to get the access to the B-roll footage and the filmed in Hay River location in the credits.
Councillor Bouchard, go ahead.
Yeah, just I'm warming to the idea, actually, to tell you the truth. And the other thing that I just recommended was if Mr. Redverse could return back to the school and maybe do some stuff there, educating some kids and getting them keen on the film industry. Obviously, we often hear in the community, not much that arts and fine arts stuff, and we always contribute to the fine arts program NWT wise. But yeah, we get to be able
That's
to get
a
some
great
kids
idea, Councillor Bouchard, and I'm sure he has a nonprofit that he established with his sister as well for Indigenous youth, and I think that that's probably a no-brainer that he would be very interested in doing something like that. Councillor McGill, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if he can provide us with some sort of, conservative understanding of how many people are going to come, estimated spend in the community. All those things are, sort of payoffs that we don't necessarily see as a bottom line, but our businesses are benefiting from it. They're going to restaurants, they're staying in hotels. Just some sort of conservative estimate of what that is going to cost for the length of the production would go a long way to basically sort of quelling any negative comments about it. And I think it would be a positive for our economic development to see what we're putting into the community, what this is going to bring to the community, and that perhaps this is something that we can actually capitalize on in the future, that making these relationships now could actually lead to further film opportunities.
Thank you. And yeah, he did have a conservative estimate of around $100,000. His crew would consist of approximately 20 people. And I forget what your third one was there, but I did want to go to Councillor Grunewagen to see if he had any comments or questions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, it sounds good. Sounds very positive. Not a lot of time, to this point to really contemplate it. Usually with this sort of thing, when we're talking about making a new type of investment in the community, I like a little bit of time to go out and talk to residents and see how they feel about it. But I mean, from what I've heard, I would think that this is something that that the community would be excited for and want to get behind. And always a good thing to be able to, I guess, highlight local talent, right? So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grunewagen. Any other comments?
Your worship, if I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Councillor Dowie, or Deputy Mayor Dowie.
Thank you, worship. Yeah, just kind of my sort of last thoughts on it. It has been said, in the conversation with Calvin well, I want to say Mr. Redverse, but it seems weird. I was just a couple years behind him in school when we had that film program, and he was kind of getting started with that stuff. But yeah, I mean, between $80,000 and $100,000 likely economic spend in the community, and 20 people. You said it might coincide a bit with some other events that are happening in town at the time, pond hockey and such. So yeah, you know, I understand the comments, and I normally feel the same way on, you know, it's something outside of the budget, and at the end of the day, the town of Hay River isn't a bank. Like we're not a finance partner typically, but this is a pretty unique opportunity, and one that, you know, I've never seen anything come to council similar. And, you know, in terms of setting a precedent, we've said it again, it's really not precedent setting if we don't want it to be. We decide that someday in the future that from this there is a benefit to it, then that's a different discussion that we could have, you know, a further benefit, you know, potentially other projects or something like that. Then that's a conversation that we have at that time. But yeah, I mean, in terms of B-roll film and credits and things like that, I'm sure would all be worked out in a contribution agreement or a contract or whatever with the company and Mr. Redverse. And I think I like it. I like the opportunity, and I don't know if we need a motion, how you want to go about that, Your Worship. It's hard for me to do over the phone right now, but maybe somebody else could make it if we do need one.
Yeah, we will need a motion. So, do you want to make that motion, Keith? I think I've heard from every one of my counselors. Have I heard from everybody? Anybody else have any more comments, concerns? None being noted. So Keith, if you'd like to make the motion, we'll go from there. Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, I guess just sort of how do we want the motion worded, Your Worship? Would it be, you know, a motion to enter into a contribution agreement, or how would you like that worded? I don't have anything in front of me. I've got no Wi-Fi right now, so.
Okay, I think that, yeah, that enter into a contribution agreement with the conditions of getting some of the footage. What were the suggestions? The footage will be acknowledged in the credits. Help me out here. I think it was Councillor Bouchard that had them. Hang on.
Your Worship, just give me a minute. I can draft something.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So before I do that, what I've heard is access to the B-roll film or shots for
Prism.
for promotional purposes.
Yeah.
Filmed in Hay River credit. I heard visit the schools.
Yeah, I did too.
And I've heard I had use of local resources where possible. And I heard, well, I didn't hear this one, but I did wonder if we wanted to add that the crew would reside in Hay River, you know, within the hotels, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't. That just helps secure
Yeah.
helps ensure the 80,000 target, I guess, is spent here, because there could be options to be staying on the highway, could be options to staying somewhere else.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Those are the 5 kind of points I heard.
Is
And
everybody good with that motion? How it's
Yeah.
drafted?
I can read it out.
Okay, so Keith, did you get that? Or Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship. I'd be okay with similarly worded motion. However, whatever council feels is the most suitable. I'm willing to move it. I just I don't have anything in front of me right now. I'm just pacing around in the basement with my cell phone. So.
Okay. SAO Smith, if you can read that motion.
Okay, I think I got it. That the Council of the Town of Hay River enter into a contribution agreement with Ice Road Productions for the filming for the movie with conditions of one, access to B-roll shots for promotional purposes, credits for being filmed in Hay River, that there will be a visit to the schools to discuss filming, and use of local resources where possible, and use of local hotels for film crew.
Is everybody good with that? Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Dowie, seconded by Councillor McGill. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, so motion carries. Perfect, thank you. So moving on to item number 5. Bylaws, which is bylaw 2439, third and final reading. Looking for a motion. Councillor Dufert, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move final reading of bylaw number 2439, land disposal.
Thank you. Seconded by? Councillor McGill, any questions? None being noted, all in favor? I need one more hand, guys. Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 6, Councillor Willows.
They're on mic, Brian.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Perfect, thank you. We do have a